Welcome to the first episode of Duel on Visited by Voices. Come meet the panel. We are joined by Corey.
What's up, everyone? How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. We are here joined by Sam's feet.
There is no Sam, only Duel.
Oh, man. That was worse than my jokes.
Yeah, it's my husband's fault.
Awesome. We are joined across the Atlantic Ocean by Mike, the real fifth Beatle.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
And we are joined from the land where sunglasses are mandatory at all times. Mr. Griffin, sir, how are you?
Hello, TV land.
We should be so lucky as to be on televisions. Actually, when you pull up the, because you can see how people watch your show by percentage, and it's like a solid 6% are beaming it to their television through some kind of device. So that's pretty exciting. The amount of people who watch us on their phones, though, is astronomical. Like as a percentage, and I don't get that at all. So because my audience is a little bit older than a lot of the communities, as to my understanding anyway. So you'd think there'd be less of that, but apparently not.
My dad had a smartphone before I did, and he figured it out. No problem. Same with the tablet. So gotta give our older generation more credit than that, man.
Well, there we go. So we're talking about two films on the show. It is a new piece of programming for the channel. The idea is to take two films that are on the surface level similar, either because of the concept or how they were made, or perhaps just simply from a marketing standpoint, were made to capitalize on each other or on a bigger film that came out with a similar theme. But we're not talking about films like, say, Last House on the Left and Chaos, which would be basically like, do you want Brownsville Station or Motley Crue singing Smoking in the Boys' Room? I mean, there's an obvious superior there, and it's not the one you're thinking. So tonight we're covering Wait Until Dark, a film starring Audrey Hepburn and Alan Arkin, and See No Evil from 1971, not the film with the wrestler. Sam, you didn't watch the film with the wrestler, right?
No, that's why I have the boots on.
Okay. Starring the great Mia Farrow, who obviously most horror fans relate to as Rosemary from Rosemary's Baby. For me, she will always be Julia Lofting from The Haunting of Julia. And this film, though, is my second favorite for her films, and it's probably my favorite performance from her. But we'll get there. So just let's go around the board. Don't really compare the films just yet, but just tell us about how you came to watch them and those initial impressions of each film. Let's start with Corey.
Well, we talked a little before we went on the air. It's kind of like Mike. I was really unfamiliar with either of these films. So I kind of sat down and watched them both back to back. So they were fresh in my mind. Wait Until Dark was one that it kind of started slow for me, but it really picked up when the action starts, when they're the guys are kind of dealing with Audrey Hepburn's character, and it really, really ramps up, I think, near the end. And I was really, really happy with that one. See No Evil, not so much. Wasn't quite for me. I really couldn't get invested in the characters in that film. But I'm sure we'll get into it a little deeper when we get around the room here.
Sam.
So I'm an asshole, but I have actual reasoning behind why I'm saying that today. So I went and I watched See No Evil first. And I was watching it and I was like, you know what? This reminds me of a lot of that movie with Audrey Hepburn where she plays the blind gal. And I fucking completely blanked out on the fact that was Wait Until Dark until I started watching it. I was like, God damn it. So, amazing. Yeah, I mean, I have to put them, I can't really, I don't want to do any ratings. I know it's too early in the show for that, but they're pretty much on an even keel, like for both. They're both fine movies. I have my qualms with them both, but I also have things I like about both of them. So they really just cancel each other out. They're just good movies.
Awesome. Griffin.
I've known about both films. Searching through, Terrence Young, director of Wait Until Dark. I've been a big James Bond fan for most of my life. So I saw that he directed it. I'm just like, well, I might as well check it out. Plus, it's got Audrey Hepburn, so why not? And like Terrence Young's James Bond films, it's very much his take on Alfred Hitchcock concept, especially of like Rear Window, for sure, and Confined Space. And See No Evil, I knew Richard Fleischer had directed it, and I knew Mia Farrow was in it. And I had not seen that one right away, as I did go out and seek out Wait Until Dark. But See No Evil, I waited to see that. This would be pretty recent I saw it.
Okay. And Mike.
Wait Until Dark was a film, obviously being a 60s film. I've got so little experience with the 60s in terms of movie making. I didn't know where the film was going to go, which was interesting for me. It's like an exciting thing to experience, because literally I'm watching an Audrey Hepburn film. To me, it's just so it's something I would never do, but really enjoyed it. See No Evil, again, a Mia Farrow film. Apart from Rosie's Baby, I don't think I've seen anything by Mia Farrow. Obviously, British setting, slightly more relatable to me, I think, than you guys. Certainly with the gypsy angle, although you might have the issue in the States. But See No Evil for me was just a real wonderful film for me. I'll get to that obviously further on, but I put See No Evil for me is a 4.5-star film out of 5.
Wow. So I had seen both these films over the years. I couldn't pinpoint for you exactly when I saw either one for the first time. There was a point when all of Mia Farrow's 70s work was like a fixation of mine. I am actually a really big fan of her as an actress. As a human being, that's a different conversation. We can discuss it a different time. But as an actress, I think she's one of the best things to have graced the horror field, and does not get the credit she deserves. And part of that is the personal life, and part of that is simply that Rosemary's Baby is such a big film critically, and yet it's not my favorite horror film. I'm on record as saying I think that movie is fucking boring. Okay. Does it have a great last 10 minutes? Oh, yeah. But there's a long ride to that last 10 minutes. So this film was actually, See No Evil was actually marketed much more as an exploitation film than it is. It is actually a great little suspense piece, I feel. But even the cover, has a woman in her bra draped over a bed while a man in cowboy boots is standing in front of the bed. It's this very, very provocative sexual psycho image. And the film has that, don't get me wrong, but it's not just that. In many ways, I look at that cover and I think it looks like advertisement for something like Maniac, the William Friedkin, not William Friedkin, the
William Lustig?
William Lustig film. And it feels like you're looking to walk into something like that. And that's not at all what happens. You obviously get a much more nuanced film. Wait Until Dark, I must have seen at a much younger age than that, because it seems it's a film that's been with me a good long time. And I'm not an Audrey Hepburn fan necessarily. I think she's a talented actress, and she was obviously hugely important to cinema, but she did so little in the genre that my the gravitational field that pulls me in was not affected really by her. But I do love both these movies, and I do see a lot of similarities and I see a lot of differences in them. And I think that's why I wanted to start this series with them. So I don't know if you're aware, but when Wait Until Dark came out, it came out with a very specific set of theater instructions for managers and projectionists, which is that at the end of the film, in the third act, when the screen goes fully dark because of the actions of a character, the theaters were actually instructed to turn off all running lights in the theaters. So all of the lights that remain on during a show, which is a lot more than you think, were doused in the darkness, and the audience was actually completely in the dark except for this faint outline of a rectangle they could kind of make out, a black screen against a black auditorium. So it kind of has a little bit of that, you know, William Castle luster to it too, which also draws me to the film. The kind of thing that I think that's, you know, again, Hitchcock, as Griffin mentioned, would have been a little bit envious of, because he was always kind of straddling that line, right, stepping right up to gimmicks, but not quite going over it to cheapen himself. So let's go around the room, starting with Wait Until Dark. Talk about your feelings about Wait About Dark, and also what worked and what didn't work for you. Now, if everything worked, just say that. But and we're going to start in the reverse order. So, Mike?
What surprised me was the fact that it's very contained, you know, within pretty much one set for most of the film. I would have thought that would be off-putting for me, but it really worked. I think it really worked. I love the fact, even though it's very briefly shown, it's that late 60s New York vibe, and I'm a sucker for anything set in New York. Just the way the characters come in and out of shot and play, it's such a clever way of portraying characters on film. It's hard to explain. I've not really seen that before, I don't think. You know, one guy walks in and he comes in, pretends to be somebody else, leaves, and then comes back. And it's such an unusual take on. I don't think I've seen that before. The one issue I did have with, maybe I'm just being picky, but the scene where she breaks all the lights towards the end, she starts to unscrew a light bulb. Now, would she not burn her hands? There's a scene where she literally grabs a light bulb and starts to unscrew it. Now, anybody's ever touched a light bulb know that it's extremely painful, and she just maybe I'm being picky, but unless they were different in the 60s, I don't know. Maybe they didn't generate as much heat. I'm not sure.
If anything, they've generated more.
Yeah, it's just she just unravels a light bulb as if it's nothing, and I'm like, surely that would really sting.
Well, it's Audrey freaking Hepburn. She can unscrew a light bulb.
I'm being picky. I'm being picky.
Now.
I'm going to have to go and re-examine every movie that I've watched with people unscrewing light bulbs now. And I already have that problem when I see people running around barefoot. Like, oh my God, they're going to step on glass.
Or a nail sticking out of stairs for no damn reason.
Yes.
Griffin, your Wait Until Dark feelings.
Wait Until Dark, overall, I think it's a very solid, very fine film. I think it's better than most of Hitchcock's kind of average kind of films. Like I would put like Torn Curtain in there, and like Topaz. I would put it much higher than those. And it is very much like a stage play, very much just like Rear Window. Hitchcock famously did not want to. He was sick and tired of doing location shooting, so he would prefer to just do everything in a stage. So I think that this film definitely owes a lot to that. I really feel like Terrence Young was really studying the stage play between the actors. And he definitely is great with actors in that he's great with fashion. I know that's going to be a weird thing to bring up in a horror thing, but all the characters are very well dressed, very sharply dressed in this film. And I thought speaking of glasses, I thought Alan Arkin's sunglasses were pretty sweet. They were pretty cool. But Alan Arkin, it was an absolute joy seeing him in a darker role. Typically, he does comedies. I've never really seen another film where he plays a villainous character. He typically, I think most people would think of him from the dad, Winona Ryder's dad from Edward Scissorhands, or his role in The Rocketeer. But it was also great seeing Richard Crenna from the Rambo films in this. I've always enjoyed him. I don't know what it is, but that guy always brings like a really great presence to every film he's in. But Audrey Hepburn, I've only seen a couple with her. Charade, another Hitchcock like film. That one's a great film as well. But Wait Until Dark, I thought it was a great film overall. I don't really have too many complaints. Maybe a little flat. If I had to, my one major complaint was the film was maybe a little flat. That's kind of my complaint with Terrence Young's most of his films that I have seen. They have kind of a flat overall look. They don't. It's not De Palma who's like doing crazy ass camera angles. They're looking from literally the light bulbs. Speaking of light bulb, that's where he would put a camera. But great film.
Sam.
I have to agree definitely with Griffin on the wardrobe call out for Wait Until Dark, because, you know, I was looking at some Audrey Hepburn's clothes and I was like, man, this is a sweet wardrobe. It's like almost as good as Black Christmas from '74. That had some excellent fashion in it too. And I would still wear that sweater with the hands on it. But, you know, on that note, it's a little startling to see how tiny Audrey Hepburn is. It's just like, you know, you look at, you know, sometimes you look at someone on screen and you wonder, how do they occupy that body? Because it doesn't make sense spatially to you, since, you know, everybody is a little bit different, you know, and it's like, I can't imagine being that small though. It was a little, you know, that was a little weird. That's just me. I guess that was, you know, I know thin was like the fashion at the time, but wow. Like, what are you, a 000? But I'd still wear that sweet sweater and skirt combo for sure. Anyway, it's not important. Gloria sucks. She looks like a troll doll, and she's really obnoxious. I mean, you know, you do warm up to her later on, but she's just like, there's something wrong with her face, man. I don't know. Audrey Hepburn's awesome. She does a good job playing blind. I think she ekes it out just a little bit more than Mia Farrow as far as like, well, what seems more realistic to be blind? Audrey Hepburn versus Mia Farrow. I mean, Mia Farrow is riding horses, so I'm like, probably the gal that's not riding horses. But as far as like likability, I probably like Mia Farrow's character better in See No Evil, because like Susie in Wait Until Dark is, you know, she's charming, but that's only because Audrey Hepburn's playing her. If you just took Susie by herself, you know, you'd really just kind of want to like shake her sometimes, because she's just very melodramatic. But, you know, it's kind of funny, like when she's talking about being like the best student in blind school. Also, that apartment was fucking sweet. I would live there in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Although that many stairs for a blind person's apartment might be something you want to think around. Want to welcome Steak Sauce to the show belatedly. We'll get you in a second, sir.
Terrific. Thanks for having me.
Corey, your view from 20,000 feet of Wait Until Dark.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed this movie because, you know, you jump right in with the whole Alan Arkin characters kind of setting the stage as, you know, using these two guys to get the job done. He needs to get it done. I liked how Audrey Hepburn's character, you know, kind of used the heightened senses. There was a scene where he comes in and she recognizes the sound of his shoes and the blinds. She always hears him looking out the blinds, and they kind of work a thing with Gloria there with a little thing with the phone to see if someone's out there on the payphone. And they do a thing too with Gloria where she kind of acts up and is throwing stuff around the apartment. And there's a part in that where they're cleaning up, and Audrey Hepburn, she kind of steps on a knife, and she says she'll put it up so she knows where it's at later, which comes into play later in the movie too. So I just felt like there weren't many loose ends in the whole story. It kind of all tied together well at the end, and you know, the score, I think I wrote it down, was Henry Mancini. It's kind of low through the movie until the end, and it really ramps up. There's a part where she thinks Alan Arkin's dead, and he kind of jumps out, a little jump scare there, and got me to jump with the like stinger on the score that went with that. So I just really had a good time with it. I thought it all tied together well.
Awesome. So before we catch up with Steak, I'll just say what I have always loved about this movie more than anything else is Alan Arkin. I think it's one of the great villainous roles, and it's also a great transitionary role for a villain because he feels absolutely modern to me still. I know who that guy is, and he's vicious, and he'll figuratively pull the trigger. There's a reason that Terror in the Isles, the great Clips film, uses his character and only clips of his character from Wait Until Dark in the film, and I think it's because there's a recognition of that kind of like dark John Lennon visually, but so suave in that dark criminal way, and so capable and sinister because he's able to take on personalities. And I mean, the opening scene with him where he's trying to get the two corrupt ex-cops to get in on this whole deal. He's in control the whole friggin' time, even though by any logical stance, they should be able to take him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
he's several steps ahead, which I thought was awesome.
You never get the feeling of that. And he has, what does he have to protect himself with? A switchblade.
Geraldine, excuse me.
Exactly. And that's one of the scenes that's in Terror in the House. And can we have Geraldine on the table? No, we cannot. Why not? Because she's the referee. And it's just lines like that just make him an iconic villain. And I think it might just be one of those moments where I watch a film and there's one character that I just wish had all the screen time. But Steak, you ready to catch up?
Let's do it.
How'd you catch? So, what's your history with both these movies?
Watched them both today for the first time.
So very fresh.
Yes.
And so let's start with your feelings on Wait Until Dark.
That one I liked a lot. Audrey Hepburn. I think I came in on Sam saying that, that character's only as likable as she is because Audrey Hepburn's playing her. And I think that's pretty apt. Although, I try to keep my thoughts on Wait Until Dark, but I found her much more likable than anyone in the other movie we're going to be speaking about, really. But the scene with Gloria throwing a fit and throwing shit, I wanted to put her through the wall. I'll say that. It's an interesting story. Certainly, nothing. Not that I'm some kind of film buff by any stretch, but it's rather unique to me. I've never seen anything like it story-wise. Alan Arkin, like Sam and Corey both said, fantastic, evil, vicious. Several steps. I don't know. Unfortunately, it's just one of those movies that it's pretty obvious why everyone likes it, or what, like the things that everyone's going to kind of pull the same shit about it. That's good. Beautiful. Corey, I jumped to, when he pops up, I swear to God, it's like they cut, I don't know, the second or two of footage, so like he almost comes from nowhere. It's
and it's going to happen, but it's still
of course. But I don't know. It's an odd movie. Like it struck me as British, a lot, especially at the beginning. Like, all right, pull your weapon out. Think of guns, of course. You get a pair of brass knucks and a knife or a razor. Like, the fuck. What's going on here? I bet they were pulling that old Italian trick where, it's Ohio. Well, there's nothing like that in Ohio. But overall, I liked it. I don't know. It's good. I'm certainly glad I watched it for sure. It's a shame she didn't get that Academy Award.
Well,
but I mean, who really cared? I mean, I guess back then, they held a little more merit than they do now, but I don't know.
So let's go around the table on See No Evil, starting with Mike.
Right, so See No Evil is a film knew nothing about until you recommended it. Loved the film. Maybe I can relate to it more because it's a British movie. Mia Farrow nails the English. I mean, the traditional British accent, English accent. You guys always say British accent. It's not British. It is English. It's not Scottish. It's not Irish. It's not Welsh. It's a traditional English accent. It's not the hardest accent to master, but she really nailed it. You would never know she was American. From the beginning, not showing the killer's face for the majority of the film really amps up the tension. It's a real sort of sinister. Whenever you see those cowboy boots, you're on edge. By not showing the face and just showing the boots, it's a trope used years later in slasher films. If you don't see somebody's face, really sort of puts you on edge because you don't know who this person is. There's a real randomness to the attack on the family. Robbery doesn't seem to be emotive. You're not entirely sure why it happened. And Mia Farrow, when she comes back to the house, the scene with the broken glass on the floor is just masterclass in tension because you're waiting and you're watching and you're thinking, it's one of those, oh my God, if she stands on that glass now, it's going to be... But the more it amps up, the more you're invested. I will say about the film, the last 20 minutes probably, for me, aren't as great as the first 60 to 70 minutes. I think once you start to unravel more of the plot, once you become aware of the boyfriend, because I think when I was first watching it, you're looking at the boyfriend, Steve, and thinking, is he responsible? And then as it becomes clear that he's not, and then without spoilers, obviously, so the final reveal of the killer, it is quite random, but maybe that is to its credit because it is just such a random event, and there's not really any explanation to the film, and I think that's what really makes it stand out for me. It's just unlike Waiting for Dark, where there's a clear intention as what they want to achieve. With this film, it's never really, unless I've missed something, it's never really clear what the whole point of the murder was. Am I missing something, Lauren? It seems to be a completely random murder.
Oh no, he's just a straight up psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thought I was missing something too.
No, he's definitely, and I want to point out that the boots play the same role for this film as the barrels do in Jaws. It's meant to be that moment where you know that, like, okay, we're not going to show the villain per se, but here's the indicator that violence is on screen.
That's because the killer animatronic, they couldn't get it to work.
That's right.
So,
Griff, what's your feelings on See No Evil?
See No Evil. I think it's a really well-directed film. I think it's got a very grand scale for such a small-scale story. Just the way they shot that house and how they made it feel gigantic. I love the cinematography in this film, especially the horse riding sequence through all the fall leaves. I thought that was just absolutely incredible looking. I was amazed by that. And Mira Farrow, I thought she did a pretty good English accent. I was pretty impressed. Although I got to admit, everyone but except for Mia Farrow, they look rough, man. they look like they've been punched in the face a couple times. God damn. But everyone was pretty good in the film. Speaking of James Bond, the uncle character was the British ambassador to England twice. There's a random bit of trivia. I was surprised. One thing I actually kind of wanted, I don't know why, maybe this is morbid, but when she's wandering around her house after her family's been murdered, and she's basically spends a whole night all wandering around as her family's all lying around her dead, I was like, I don't know. I kind of want to just see the rest of the film. See when Yeah, if she would notice the smell of everybody, she'd be like, "Man, they're gone for a long time. Jesus." That gardener, he had to ruin it all, though.
Well, that's as gardeners will, because who can afford a gardener?
I know, right?
Sam,
You guys don't have gardeners?
I do. I have 2.
wow,
Must be nice.
yeah,
We're very
tell me.
attached to each other. So, yeah, no, I thought this was fine. Again, it's hard comparing this with Wait Until Dark because I thought the suspense in Wait Until Dark was a little bit better. And as far as character likability goes, I prefer Sarah to Susie because she's just out and about and, doing her thing. And she's like, oh, I'm blind because of the horse riding accident. Fuck it, I'm going to ride a horse anyway. And literally gets back up on the horse. But, again, it's sort of like one of those things. The plot on both of these, I got lost in the weeds with them because, See No Evil is just, oh, it's a maniac. Okay, that's fine, I guess. Wait Until Dark, I was very confused about how much of the random people that were coming into the apartment were part of Talman and Carlino's, plot to get the doll. And I'm thinking, this is a blind lady. Just go in there and ransack the apartment. Stop with all the dramatics.
They'd already searched the apartment and couldn't find it.
Well, they're bad at their job. Oh my goodness.
Well,
So,
yeah.
And you'd think being under the threat of death, they'd work a little harder, or they'd figure it out faster, something. But then there, and then I guess those random people like not Alan Arkin's character, but he was pretending to be Rote. And then, the father, like Rote's father, that whole thing with the old guy just barging in, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Did they hire them? Are these real people?
That's just New York, baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just, what? Yeah, so I got lost in the weeds there. But, See No Evil is pretty much straightforward. It's just, I liked Mia Farrow being more, I guess, a little, they're both really strong characters as far as, being disabled. And they're just, it's cool because they're just going about their business. However, both of them are just like, no, I don't need any help. And then all these horrible things happen. It's kind of a great trope. There are some things that bother me, like, like Steve's like horse decor. Like, Steve, you don't need to have a horse lamp. When they take Sarah back after, close to the final end scene when she's lying in bed. Like, I'm just looking there and it's like, Steve, I know you're into horses, but not everything has to be horse related. For fuck's sake, man.
Have you ever met a person who's in love with horses?
Yeah, they're obnoxious.
Yes, but the person that I met was not crazy.
Oh, I've met a lot of crazy horse people.
Yeah, I know that stereotype exists, but I don't know. Also, horses weird me out because I'm always afraid they're going to bite my fingers off or, like, kick me in the face.
They will.
More people are killed by horses every year than alligators and sharks combined in America. Just remember, they're dangerous animals.
I'd rather take my chances with an alligator or a shark.
Absolutely. I'd rather ride an alligator any day of the week because that's just badass.
I'd rather ride a shark as long as it's shooting laser beams.
Yeah, well, I'm not convinced that that's a good move.
Calm down, Dr. Evil. Jesus.
Corey.
Okay, well, I totally agree that this is a movie that's technically well done. But unlike a lot of people, I guess, my biggest problem was Mia Farrow. And it may sound cold, but I guess other than real life, I don't have much sympathy for her when it comes to characters and the stuff I've seen her in. That sounds really bad, I know, but
You're fucking savage, man.
I don't know. This movie just never hooked me throughout. I wasn't really locked in. She gets away. There's the scene where she gets away and gets to the gypsies, and then the one takes her locks her in this box, like it looks like she's left in Vietnam somewhere, and they finally get her out there and get her back home, get her cleaned up, and then there's the big reveal of the killer, and I was like, who the hell is this guy? I had no clue who it was. So it was like, looked like it was supposed to be a big reveal, and I was like,
Did anybody
something.
rewind the film to check?
What is this rewind you're talking of?
Okay, anyone chapter select.
Okay.
But I want to point out, just like the film The Collector, you do see the character, you see the killer early on, with after you see his boots. Like there's scenes you see him.
Yeah.
He's actually on the thumbnail. He's on the thumbnail at some point. I remember. He's in the back. He's stood behind me, a Pharaoh in a photograph.
Yeah,
he's
at the farm. He's
Yeah.
one of the main farm hands. That's why you get a little clue when Mia Farrow gets on the horse, when she sneaks in after she gets out of the house and gets on the horse. That's why he's not. You can tell he's not afraid of horses. Or else most people would, their asses would be gone.
It's a good point.
He feels comfortable enough to try a challenge. I'm like, man, you're a crazy motherfucker.
So obviously I missed that. I was completely clueless on who the guy was, but like I said, I don't know. I just had way more enjoyment out of Wait Until Dark, and that's just kind of my take on it. So
Cool. Steak, why don't you go ahead with See No Evil?
I guess this is going to be just the problem with me going last, is that pretty much everything everyone has said is more or less how I feel. Corey in particular. It's a very beautiful movie, especially like the shots of the fields and things like that. But I hated everyone in this movie. I felt, like Mia Farrow is completely not like, I don't know. That's to me a miscasting to put her as like the woman in peril. I don't know. I don't care about her. She's walking around like a Romero zombie, just hands out. Like, it's it was too much. I think like they both, her and Audrey Hepburn both did a good job as far as like the eye placement, like not being too obvious. Like, hey, I'm looking at, like they did a good job at selling the blindness, but holy shit, did I not like her. And like Griffin said, that family is rough.
Yes.
The aunt in particular. I had to kind of like turn away. Like, oh.
She wasn't even that old.
No, but just ugly. Just ugly.
You see, I rail against the prettification of our cinema.
No, I mean,
I love when ugly people on screen.
There's a difference between ugly and then that. They shouldn't leave their house, let alone doing pictures.
Did anybody think that Steve looked like a young Donald Sutherland? I thought so. I thought Steve looked a lot like a young Donald Sutherland. The eyes.
When I revisit it, I'll have to think about that.
Since we're talking about looks anyway, crap! I've already forgotten what I was going to say.
The English, of course, they're ugly.
No, we're not talking about dental work here. We're talking about
That's a cheap shot, that law.
It is, but it doesn't make it untrue, does it?
Well, it's not untrue. Yeah.
Now Mike's covering his face. He's like,
my teeth are not perfect. I'm well aware of that.
Mike, your teeth are way better than mine. Don't even worry about it. I'm American. This is a whole thing.
But Lauren, I do agree with. I do prefer films with characters that look more real world. Like our films today are just, we're way too obsessed with models, and that's what I liked about this. Is these people, like being around horses most of my life. These people feel like they would be obsessed with equestria.
So Griffin says it perfectly. Ugly people like horses.
I'm gonna be on Team Steak here because, like, bouncing off what you said, Steak, like with the aunt, and I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, her daughter had to go date a gypsy, and they're rich as fuck. You can do better.
Yeah,
that was a small town.
I'm thinking that was there's some ist that starts with Jip. that somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say,
can
is
say
that-
it. I can
That's-
say it. I
Hey,
have that
I'm
blood.
sorry, but that was problematic with this movie.
Exactly.
But
There
you
were
got to
many
figure like
people.
for the gypsies, the reason why she went to the gypsies because they were closer than town.
Please use the G word.
Okay,
Okay.
the gypsies were closer
Oh
to
my
the
God.
house.
Every time you say that, he like Steak dies a little inside, man.
Oh, they were closer, but I did like the red herring of the brother.
Yeah.
I did like that. Yeah.
I think the biggest gripe after Mia Farrow though is that they didn't show any like. I mean, they didn't have to show the killer. Obviously, I do like it. They kind of kept that. I mean, the payoff was lame, but like I don't remember who said it. The tension with just shit the boots. Okay, something's happening. But I figure for being England, when he threw the shot glass off the bar, he would have just got his ass kicked over there. Like I don't know, Mike. Maybe maybe the 70s were a different time, but like that just seems like
more likely to get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
70s.
Yeah. Well.
There's a scene where Jack is behind a hedge and he ducks behind a hedge. And that threw me because I was like, I was thinking, is this the killer? Why have they not gone back to him? And have they just revealed the killer? And it's only later on when you reveal that obviously he was just dating Mia Farrow's cousin that you knew why he was there. So that threw me, that scene, because I was kind of thinking, is he the killer? And why have they not? They've shown the hand at that point, so why have they not gone back to him? And obviously it's revealed later on, and obviously it builds up to them trying to reveal that he is it. They obviously, the gypsies think he is responsible, and then obviously it's proven that it's just some guy who works for Steve.
It's a coincidence.
Yeah.
I really like that kind of writing, and maybe that's a soft point why I probably like this film more than most of the panel. But I really like the idea that there's people who are imperfect that even people around them would feel are capable of it. That there's more than one person on screen that's capable of this crime. Because too often in films, especially modernly, you get one character who's pure evil who pretends to be like everyone else, and everyone else is lily white, And I hate that. I think characters are best when they're gray, and this film has a lot of gray to it. Even Mia Farrow's character is kind of gray in her treatment of people, which I appreciate. She's only been blind a year, right, since the accident. So it's a thing like everything's still new to her, and she's very self-conscious, and she's very standoffish about independence. I think that's very different than Audrey Hepburn's character, who's obviously been living with it.
That's why I bought Mia Farrow with her sticking her
also...
hands out, her arms out. That's why I bought it a lot more than with Audrey, because she was still getting used to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought both of them were just about a year on. And that's another thing. Like Mia Farrow just seemed helpless.
Well,
she's out in the middle of the woods.
Well, yeah.
I'll give her a little credit.
I mean, that was absolutely the best part of the movie was when she fucking smacked her face on that.
But
or when she fell down the stairs.
Or she's rolling around in the mud,
falling down the hill. I'm like, it's terrific.
So for everyone who didn't like it, what do you all think of the scene of when the gardener comes in and she sees him? Well, she doesn't see him, I bet.
that'd be a twist.
But he sees her and he's talking to her and he's trying to guide her, and he's basically going, over there, ahead of you, and she's going, what?
Yeah.
I was laughing at that scene. I couldn't help it. I was just laughing at the dichotomy of like this guy is just like, I'm like, God, you overacting or what, buddy? And I don't know. Someone was overacting or underacting there.
But I love the bracelet.
Yeah.
Oh, it was pretty.
Well, no, I'm saying it's used in the story. Obviously, Steak.
Yeah.
But
it's because that sets up the whole misdirection in the first place. It's well used in that respect. I did hate the actor though. When he it's not here. Oh no! Like, I feel like I get that they had to kind of portray that. Oh shit! Like that's but I think but it's a little too hammy. I don't
A
know.
little theatrical.
I get that you have to, portray that he realizes it's gone without showing his face, but
Well, you have to remember that the early 70s acting was undergoing a big seismic change, just as it had done, when Brando was like a changing point 2 decades earlier, basically, or a decade and a half earlier. And then in the 70s, a very naturalistic type of performance was becoming popular. That's why I called out the Alan Arkin performance in Wait Until Dark as being out of time, because that does not feel like the same acting discipline as everyone else in that movie. That feels absolutely modern. Audrey Hepburn's great, don't get me wrong, but she's still acting in a little bit more of a traditional way. And you see a little bit more stage acting in her, whereas Alan Arkin, except when he's playing his own father, is a very, very modern performance. So I think that...
Sorry, Lord. Just going back to See No Evil, at the beginning of the movie, he's just come out of cinema, and there was a double feature. Are they real films?
I don't think so.
No, they weren't.
No.
I looked it up.
I wasn't.
You looked it up.
They look quite sort of the sort of film that a sicko would want to see, and I was thinking, wondered if that was actual real films at the time.
There was definitely a whole statement about a culture embracing violence, because you had all those shots of guns and just like social decay in that early segment of just the killer walking through the city. And I think that was interesting too, the idea that it's kind of like the evils of a city, which is kind of the modern, the society always gets modern in its cities first before it seeks out to the rural areas, right? So you kind of had that in the film, where it's like the sickness was coming from population centers. I'm not sure it would be portrayed that way today, because people like to, use ideas like that to make political points. Whereas I don't think that's what was being done here. I think it was really just talking about people. And that's the thing. I think both these films had something to say. And I think if we're being fair, both these films work more than they don't work, at a bare minimum.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to have to give See No Evil some more credit now that you kind of pointed that out. I don't think I'm used to subtlety and messaging anymore.
No, not if you've been watching films recently. Purge, Forever Purge, anyone?
I definitely missed that.
Can I add one more thing for See No Evil? I definitely feel like Spielberg was a fan of this film.
Yeah.
Because particularly the raptors in the kitchen, where you only see their
it's
talons.
The same scene.
It's and then you seeing I was merely reminded that when seeing the killer lying in his bed with the blood all over his boots, and I thought that was fascinating. Like that he was pretty much not only did he wake up in a literal sense, but he literally woke up from his psychotic rage, where he's now realizing what he did, and he's trying to cover it up as best he can. I thought that was fascinating. That's why I thought it worked when during the fight that he gave up, that he knew he fucked up royally, and that everybody knew, especially his best friend.
All right, so let's give a rating to both films, and then obviously, that'll point out which is your favorite. But any final thoughts about why that film that wins the head-to-head competition is the winner? Let's start with Corey.
We doing letter grades? Is that how you do it? Typically?
That's how I do it, but you can do it whatever you'd like, because I am all about freedom.
Wait Until Dark. I'll go B+ on that. Like I said, it really kind of got me early on, and I was locked in. See No Evil. I appreciate everyone's point, so I feel like it's one that maybe I could rewatch and maybe I can, absorb a little more. But as of right now, I'll go C- for me on See No Evil.
Okay, Sam.
I get where you're coming from, Corey, for sure, and I kind of agree with that. But I'm going to have to use a different rating scale just because I'm obnoxious. Because for me, they're so very similar in tone, and it's really difficult for me to pick out which one is better. I'm just going to give them both like 1 eyeball out of 2, just to be fair. So I think See No Evil is just going to barely squeak by like a cunt's hair on this, just because Elmer Bernstein does the score, and it works better than in Wait Until Dark. And when I was watching See No Evil, I was like, is that Ghostbusters? And I was like, oh, it is. It's Elmer Bernstein. Awesome.
And Magnificent Seven.
Yeah. I mean, it's just sort of like, okay. Yeah, See No Evil's just going to squeak by.
Cool. Griffin.
I'll go with the letter grade. A- for Wait Until Dark, and a solid B for See No Evil.
Okay. Mike?
I'll use, because I rate all films from IMDb, I'll just give it a 10. Wait Until Dark be a 7, and See No Evil be an 8.
Okay. And Steak?
Wait Until Dark. I'll give an 8 out of 10. Actually, I enjoyed that a lot. I liked the. It's a very talky movie. You know, I enjoyed watching them set up the plan and watching them like. I don't really think you know the two gentlemen, Mike Tallman and the sergeant. I can't remember the name they gave him, but they don't realize that she's kind of slowly catching on to them, and like she hears everything. And it's like it comes off a little Tales from the Crypt, but like in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could kind of see that, you know, they're not realizing their mistakes, and then it all does kind of come back and grab them, you know, as they slowly die. But you know, spoilers. So yeah, like I said, 8 for Wait Until Dark, and I gotta give See No Evil a 6. It's just like all of the technical stuff is well done. The score, the cinematography, the acting's, I don't know, it's not bad. It's just it's different than what I prefer to see. So like just, you know, totally from a, you know, subjective standpoint, I just, you know, it's getting a 6.
All right. I'm actually going to give both films a B+. I think both of them miss the A- territory simply because in both cases, I get done with the film and I like them a lot, and I don't watch either one of them again for 10 years. So it's one of those things that if I'm not rewatching it more often than that, I can't justify putting it in the top tier of films. But I'd say it just misses that in both cases for different reasons, which is why I wanted to do this series, is that how can two films that on paper are so similar, how can we have had such different reactions to them? Even though these come out the same place for me in a grading system, they're almost more different as films go, even though on the surface they should be the same, than almost if you just pick two films at random. And I think when you compare it with more obvious examples of when two films are similar come out, like Deep Star 6 and Leviathan, you realize how much credit these two films in particular deserve for being able to be as tonally and specific plot point different, even though they're dealing with, hey, what happens if a blind girl has to defend herself against, you know, a maniac, or maniacs plural. I will say that if Wait Until Dark wanted to win over See No Evil for me, all it had to do is give Alan Arkin about 5 more minutes worth of screen time, and that would have pushed me over the edge. But overall, I do think Mia Farrow's performance is amazing. Steak and I are just going to have to disagree on that, and that's cool. We're different people, despite what some people think. They think it's prosthetics and I put a beard on. That's not true. It's not true. We're different people. So I wanted to start the series with two films I thought were winners, and certainly nothing here scored a 4 from anyone. So I think that we succeeded there. Any final thoughts before we go, guys?
My boots are killing me.
Well, I don't have any thoughts. I had a question quickly, just for you. What, how to phrase this? How different were our opinions, you know, after we gave them out than what you expected maybe from us going into it?
To be honest, you know, the other show that we do regularly on this channel, Obscurity Report, has taught me something, which is that you never really know where people are going to go with things, and how they sit down to watch things depends, I think, a lot on how they come out the other side, because this is first watches for most people on both shows. So I think it's more a matter of if they sit down and they had to get to it and they had a deadline they felt, that's going to affect things. Also, if they're worried about what the rest of the group is going to feel, sometimes people either align or disalign, knowing that they have to talk about it. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a criticism. So I never really guess what people are going to think. I actually thought if I had to go for my gut, I'd say I thought that See No Evil would be more successful with you than with the group than Wait Until Dark, simply because it's a more modern film. But we see that, and I'm kind of overjoyed that didn't work out that way, even though I do love both films. So,
Lorne, regarding Wait Until Dark, the synopsis on IMDb mentions that the doll is stuffed with heroin, but I don't remember a single reference to drugs in the entire film.
They're
heroin?
They show it.
No, but
very beginning.
They actually say the word heroin in the film. I don't remember them actually saying. I don't remember a single reference to a drug in the entire film.
It's weird because it's the other film that has horses all over the place, right?
I just don't.
I think the intimation is because of the time period.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Because cocaine was not something that would have been in the zeitgeist quite as much at that point, but heroin was definitely being discussed.
People who are maybe a bit more innocent would be thinking, "What is this?"
Well, they would have known drugs.
Yeah.
Even though I love the fact that character, the old man who's putting the doll together, seems like you feel like he's a good guy, but he's a drug dealer. Like he's not acting like a villain. He's acting like a guy running a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like the fact that there's a misdirection of you think you're going to follow this girl for the whole movie and she's dead instantly.
I was bummed out about that.
I know she was.
She was easy on the eyes, no question about it. But you know what? It's so crazy because today we would never take a package from someone in an airport, right? Ever.
No.
I mean, I might take it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'll probably take it if somebody just hands me something.
Well, why don't we do this experiment as homework? All of us drive to an airport and try to give a doll to just someone random there. And then I'll check in with you in 5 years when you're out.
Wait a minute. They're putting us in prison just for passing a doll around? Or do we have to go buy the heroin?
I'm pretty sure post 9/11 you don't want to be handing anything to anyone in an airport.
Sure.
Well, I wouldn't hand it, but I would take something.
Okay.
Like if somebody just pushed it in my hands, I'd be like, okay.
There used to be lockers. There used to be lockers at airports. That could never fly today.
Get it?
Well,
fly.
you can put all the lockers on the airplane.
Yeah. You know what? My final thought on this film is both these characters were in dire need of seeing eye dogs.
Yeah.
Right? Holy shit! I did have that thought at one point because I was like, man, this is all going wrong for them, and it's like we're talking about they don't need any sort of assistance, and I'm like, well, apparently you do.
Dog can't buy groceries, Lauren.
But there's actually a video game. It's a sequel, Siren 2, where you play as multiple characters, and one of the characters is a blind man. He has a guide dog with him. It's pretty cool.
I'm having flashbacks to watching my friend play the first Siren game, dying on the same level where you just have to get that girl up the whatever tower, and then finally the
Whatever tower,
and she fucking dies anyway. Sorry,
wow,
burned in my brain.
There you go.
All right, guys. Thank you all for joining the panel on this first episode of Duel, and we will be back actually on Friday. Sam and I will with special guest Evie Knight, and then next week we will be doing a just talking genre on the Wednesday. Did we decide on Wednesday, Sam?
Probably.
That sounds right to me. It's probably not, but
I
see.
assume it's correct. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I pretty much don't leave the house except on weekends, so we're good.
The work release program.
Yeah. If I'm real good, they'll let me out for a few hours.
Oh, one more thing. I also remember the thing I also was thinking of with seeing the killer and see no evil is the Wampa in Empire Strikes Back, as you see it eating and then it moves when Luke is trying to get the lightsaber. Sorry, I'm just thinking more of that shit where they don't show the actual character.
All right. With that, we're going to end an episode of Visited by Voices with a fucking Star Wars reference.
That's fucking teeth.
I saw the sign. Opened up my eyes, I saw the sign. It's a rain of man. It's a rain of man. Christian, at last, you're on your own. If that ends up anywhere else, I'm getting pissed.